Our New Testament reading is taken from Matthew, the 9th chapter, verses 10 through 17. And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with Jesus and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard this, he said, "Those who are well have no need for a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Then the disciples of John came to him, saying, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, "The wedding attendants cannot mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them, can they? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. But not one sews a piece of unshrunken cloth to an old cloak, for the patch pulls away from the cloak, and the worse the tear is made. Neither is wine put into old wineskins, otherwise the skins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are ruined. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved."
Good morning. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about my trip to Guatemala this year, and I wrote it all out this year. That way I'm not stuttering around a whole bunch like last time, and hopefully not bawling the whole way through. So, we'll see. How was my trip? First of all, let me tell you my dream last night. I had a dream that I couldn't find any of my notes for this, and that we were like in a Catholic church, and there was one of those like things that the people go up in and they read the scripture. And so I was going up there, and I was surrounded by grape juice. So, but how was my trip to Guat? This question is a loaded one, and it's hard for me to nail down a good solid answer. So I guess it depends on who's asking. 0% of all of this is just black and white. It's more like 50 shades of gray. Bad joke, probably for church, yes, but since I'm speaking about something important and heavy, it's probably okay to throw in a bad joke. Some of you were here for my presentation 2 years ago, and so some of this will be a little bit of a recap or a repeat for you. I'm going to take a couple of small avenues and give some straight facts, some stories, and some of the implications that this has had. And there's also going to be a couple of pictures, but not many due to the nature of this work. Starting at the beginning. My first thoughts of prostitutes. So, never mind. My first thoughts of prostitutes were like most of our thoughts on prostitutes here in America, and especially in rural America. Things that we are taught, whether consciously or subconsciously. In 10th grade, we were on a band trip to New York City, and I remember seeing a lady on the street. Someone said she was a hooker. We're taught that these are bad ladies, and most of all, dirty ladies. People to be avoided, don't look at them, let alone touch them. The same thoughts carry over to Guatemala. Don't look at them, let alone touch them, unless you're using their services. This couldn't be further from the truth, and I'm using a lot of generalizations for these ladies, but they're true of all the ladies that I've gotten to meet. They're selfless, they're kind, they're tougher than nails, and they're regular people who put their pants on the same way you and I do every day, one leg at a time. It was an accident that I even got in on this trip in the first place. My first trip to Guatemala, if you remember, was in March of 2020. It was literally the week that the country shut down due to COVID. It was just a general medical clinic with a small gynae team going to the red light district. The docs wanted some nurses to go. There were only 2 nurses, my friend Mars and I. They wanted us to go to help set up the clinic because nurses are organized and would know how to set up a smooth running gynae clinic. My friend Mars and I laughed and laughed because we had 0 gynae experience, and only work with things like pneumonias, urinary tract infections, small bowel obstructions, and things of the like. Well, we went, we set up the gynae clinic, and they let us each rotate through one day during the week. Talk about love at first sight. We both loved it, but thought that's going to be the end of it. There would be no more chances of this love again. Well, fast forward to 2022. The organization we had went with was setting up another trip. Marcia got the email and was screaming inside because, yay, we get to go back again. Well, it was supposed to go to Marcia, one of the doctors. They spell their name exactly the same. So Marce logged into this Zoom meeting, and the people were confused because they didn't remember her, and they wanted to know what she was doing in on this medical meeting. She explained that she got this email, the mishap was identified, and what a coincidence, they needed 2 nurses. She volunteered herself and said she knew another nurse. Talk about divine appointment. 5 whole days of gynae clinic. I was hooked. That's how it started. How does a lady get into this situation in the first place? First of all, the poverty level in Guatemala is just wow factor. Has anyone ever been to Guatemala? Okay. There are areas that are really nice, but those aren't the kind of areas that we were getting to see. The poverty is high, the abuse is high, corruption is high, and exploitation is high. There are an estimated 26,000 prostitutes in the country. It's legal there as long as you're over the age of 18, but no one really checks if you're 18. Guatemala City has 9 red light districts alone. The area that we set up our clinic in was along La Linea. It means the line in Spanish, and it's right along the railroad tracks. I think at the end of this I'll show you a couple of pictures up there, and there's a picture of that. Hence the name La Linea. Lots of ladies in the red light districts, they get off to a bad start in life. School in Guatemala is not a high priority for ladies. There's a higher priority to send the boys in the family to school. School is not free, and all the supplies that you need for school you have to pay for. So you have to buy books, uniforms, pencils, anything else that a person needs for school. So many of these women are uneducated. Many can't read. I actually didn't know that until 2 years ago. That was new to me. Things that I know that I've taken for granted many a times. There is no government assistance in Guatemala. There's no food stamps, there's no WIC, no social security programs. It's literally give us this day our daily bread. Quite literally for a lot of folks. So many families end up forfeiting school to send their kids, usually the girls, to work so that they can make ends meet, which results in a lack of education. It's a chronic problem. What we hear a lot of women say is that they're doing this work so they can feed their kids, send their kids to school, so that maybe their kids won't have the same start that they do. Talk about sacrificial love. I think I've read about that somewhere in the Bible. For security reasons, real names can't be used for any of these stories, so each one of them will be called Maria. There's actually more than 3 Marias, so it was supposed to be called the Marias, but anyways. I will call each one of them Maria, but not with a Spanish accent, because my Spanish is terrible. We saw a total of 89 Marias this year. 14 of the 89 had abnormal pap smears, so they had biopsies taken. 30 of the 89 Marias were repeaters from last year, and 6 cryotherapies were done on Marias. Cryotherapy is basically you use CO2 and you freeze their cervix. That's probably not interesting to any of you, but you freeze their cervix to get rid of abnormal cells. I need to stress that every one of the 89 Marias are important, and I didn't get to interact with every one of them, only about a third of them, because there was 3 nurses. And I want to share with you about the ones that impacted me the most. Younger me would have said that I'm glad I can go help these women. Current me knows that the real blessing here is for me. It's such a blessing to get the opportunity to meet these Marias and try and show them a bit of God's love. Maria number 1 is a Maria that I've seen before. She has come in a number of times. She is polite, she's reserved, and if I didn't know what she did for work, to look at her, I'd swear she was a young librarian. Either I can't remember her story or else she never told it to us. But anyways, after her appointment, we do her post-exam appointment. Basically, ask her if she knows why we're here and tell her that we are not just here for physical care, we care about her spiritual well-being too. She's heard this spiel before, and I know this because I specifically remembered her from last year. Long story shortened, she cannot believe that the Jesus of the Bible could love her because it would work, not in an incredulous way, but in an actual unbelieving way. Quite frankly, most days I can't believe the Jesus of the Bible could ever love me either. We have that in common. She politely allows us to pray with her and looks up with misty eyes when we're finished. Sorry. This is discouraging as all get out. Taking notes from Aaron with the water. If I'm being honest, and I had the thought for part of the day that is any of this even making a difference? After discussing it all out with Mary Kate, she's one of the doctors, we don't know the impact we have on this side of heaven. That's true everywhere. Maria obviously feels comfortable with us, or she wouldn't bother coming back from last year. So we can hopefully plant some seeds. That's what we're called to do. Paul says some plant, some water, and God takes care of the rest. Maria number 2 was new to Lavinia. She had literally only been on the line for 1 week. It's hard to explain, but she had a different look about her than the other ladies. She looked scared to death and like she was in shock. I think after the ladies are there for a while, they develop a bit of a calloused shell. They have to. This Maria had just left her physically abusive husband, and they had 4 kids together, so she was there to feed her kids. She had only been there 1 week, but in that week's time, the other ladies had told her about Tamar's Hope and the clinic, and so she came. When she was sitting on the couch, and one of the other ladies was leaving, the other Maria came over, gave her a kiss on the cheek, and a big old abrazo. That means hug in Spanish. It should be noted that Guatemalan women are big huggers and kissers on the cheek. This is the community portion of it all that is so beautiful to witness. They do take each other under their wings. Maria had an interest in sewing and will hopefully go back to Tamar's for classes, as Natalie was going to reach out to her later to see about it. Sean and Natalie have a scholarship program where they will offer the ladies a certain portion of the cost of a class of whatever trade they want to learn. Nursing, hairdressing, sewing, cooking, whatever it is. They offer a portion so that the ladies will come up with the other funds. If the ladies do have some skin in the game, they're more likely to work hard at their classes and to finish them to get out. It develops the character trait of even more grit. I don't know how they can get much more grit than what they already have, but when life gets hard and they're off the line, they'll do everything they can to stay off the line. There was another Maria there who was soon to be 75 years old. She's still working. She told Lance, that's one of our doctors, who's also in his 70s, that she knew that Jesus sent us here to help her. She had spent more than 40 years in her line of work. So she sits in the sun day in and day out, waiting for men to want her services. Talk about discouraging. But this woman had Jesus and had such a joyful spirit. Another Maria was 62 and only working 2 days a week, what we would consider part-time here in the United States. Her prayer request at the end of the appointment was that her son wouldn't do bad things and get involved in the gangs. This lady was involved in gangs, and they do loads of bad things. To explain the gang system a bit, the rooms along La Linea are privately owned. The ladies have to rent their room. There's a daily fee that must be paid, whether their room is used that day or not. If they get behind on their rent, the gangs will gladly loan them money to get caught up, but their daily interest rates are 50%. This is how the cycle of chronic debt begins, and it's so hard to get out from under it. If the debts aren't paid, they're often killed. Another Maria I want to tell you about is a Maria that was laying on the table getting her exam. The translator, her name was Rita. This was a growing experience for Rita because though she was a translator, she didn't have a lot of medical knowledge, and so it was a lot of learning for her, and she did great. We were glad to have her. And another thing, so when you get translators down there, you don't know if they're Christian or not. They're translators. And so it was very cool that Rita was a Christian, so she encouraged these ladies too. So that was cool to see. Okay, so Rita was chatting with her about some basic things, and I was picking up about every third word. It wasn't enough that I could gather what they were actually discussing. I did notice that there was a drastic change of pace and tone to the conversation. This lady was from Nicaragua. Nicaraguans, they speak 50 times faster than Guatemalans, so they're incredibly hard to understand. But anyway, she was talking faster than what she normally was. So, me being nosy, I asked the translator what she was saying. Rita told me what she had said. Maria watched her husband be killed right in front of her while they had a toddler. I think he was a year old, if I remember right. She moved and started working to take care of her baby. For whatever reason, she refused a man's services, and he shot her right in the chest. It exited out of her back. How is this woman even alive? As Rita was telling me this, Maria took my hand and she told me to touch her scar. So much for the no walking. This felt oddly like something I've read before. Rita encouraged her with things along the lines of regards of, you didn't die because God had a plan for you. It's true though. There's not one logical reason this lady should be alive, except for this reason. Rita then went on to encourage her with the story of the Samaritan woman and how Jesus revealed himself to her. She'd never heard this. After her exam, Rita went downstairs and chatted with another Maria. The other Maria was telling her story of abuse to the first Maria, and the first Maria had already heard this story before, but cried with her nonetheless. This is what the church should do. May we never be so calloused that we cannot cry with a friend or even an acquaintance. It's not an exaggeration to say that I love all the Marias, but I do have a favorite Maria. I've seen her on every one of the trips, and she's comes up to about my armpit. She's in her 40s, and she's very eccentric. And anyways, I've seen her on every one of these trips. She had a severe high-grade dysplasia and received treatment in 2024, so she had cryotherapy. This year, her PAP results were downgraded to atypical cells, and she didn't require any further treatment, so it does make a difference. What a blessing this is and was. It is a miracle in the sense of In the year of 2023, it was recommended that she get a full hysterectomy. She was originally unable to do this because she would have to be off of work for a number of weeks. Funds were raised and she was set to have the procedure done. In the meantime, her daughter needed money, so she took out a loan with the gangs. Her daughter took the money and literally ran, cut off all communication, so now Maria is in enough debt she won't likely ever get it paid off. She's working from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day and literally sleeping on the street a few streets down, and feels very alone, probably because she is. So my question is, why isn't she just sleeping in her room where she at least has a bed? These rented rooms lock with a padlock on the outside, and if she's sleeping inside, there's no padlock on the outside of the door. Men will climb up on the roof and lift up the tin roof that's not secured down and rob and take advantage of these women. I'd sleep on the street too. To talk about now, I want to talk about Domi and Karina. Domi works at Tamar's, and I think she's been there every year that I've been to Guay. She is a force to be reckoned with. She's loud, serves the ladies like nobody's business. She loves them. She makes sandwiches, hugs, laughs, cries, and gives them pep talks. She's also one of the best sewers around. She went to school and she makes her own patterns. She had a sewing shop, and when she lost electric, she worked with battery packs. Determined she is. She hasn't been sewing this much this year because she's also taking secondary classes and is learning to read. She didn't know how to read when she first came to Tamar's. Karina also works at Tamar's. She works as an ancillary nurse. She's also a force to be reckoned with. She's even louder than Domi, and you can hear her laugh about 50 kilometers away. She makes sandwiches, hugs, laughs, and cries with them, the ladies, and gives them pep talks. I offered her the last Twizzler because I was trying to get rid of this bag of Twizzlers. It was the last day. And she took it, but she hesitated, just enough that I could tell that she didn't want it. But she didn't want to be rude. In Guatemala, it's seen to be rude if someone tries to give you a gift and you refuse it. I told her I could tell she didn't want it in very broken Spanish and with the help of a translator. She laughed and she said that it was true, but that's just how they are. They don't want to hurt people's feelings. Both ladies worked on the linea for years and have made it to the other side. They are what the church is to be, encouraging, meeting people where they are, coming alongside those who are down and out. Their resilience is an encouragement to me. They've both walked through some really terrible things, but they've used these awful things to help encourage the other ladies. They can empathize with them and encourage them because they do actually know how things are, as they were prior Marias on the line. Karina once said, and Natalie, one of the missionaries, Sean and Natalie, this is her slogan and it's on their page, "Love made me think that I could change." Sean and Natalie showed Jesus' love so hard to these ladies, day in and day out, week in and week out. Isn't that what Jesus' love does? It should make us want to change. So, in a couple minutes, I'm going to show you the pictures, but The drop-in center that I went to the first time, it was literally on the corner. It was a rented little room of a building. It was all one room. And we had black trash bags clothespined up on like PVC pipe. And that was to differentiate between the rooms. And then in 2022, they've made massive upgrades. They were able to buy a little plot of land. It is right along La Linea. And they started building. And when we went in 2022, we were in a building right along La Linea, and it's behind a metal fence, and there's razor wire along the top. And anyways, no one can see in. You can't see it. For the last 3 years, we had rooms set up on the first floor of this building. It was separated by curtains and again closed with clothespins. And the ladies actually made the curtains, so that was kind of cool. An upgrade from the trash bags. And then when we went last year, they were building on the upstairs, but none of it was finished. And because the upstairs wasn't finished, every time it would rain, we were there in rainy season, water would come down the steps. And before we'd set up clinic, we'd have to sweep all the water out of the building, which was fine. It's stone tile floor. But finally, they do have, it's 3 stories now. And this year we were upstairs, and because the upstairs was actually finished in actual rooms with these closing doors, it legit was like a doctor's office. And we had running water in every room. And so the ladies actually could have dignity and respect that they so much deserve. While I loved that for them, it felt a little almost hospital-like. It was a little less personalized, because when we were downstairs, everyone was all together, and so you were just chit-chatting and mingling and then going into a room and then coming out. But now you had to go up and down the stairs, which was fine. We just simply made more trips up and down the stairs. Can someone shut the lights off and show you the pictures? Okay, so that's in the year 2022, and you can see the PVC pipe and then the actual curtains. And that's how it was all downstairs. So the ladies would sit on the couches, we would sit on the couches, and just anyways, you can see a dining table back there in one of the rooms. Okay. And and so then this was last year, and I went up on the scaffolding, and you can see the second floor that is there, but it's not finished yet. And then this is the bus. They have a mobile, they call it La Puertita, which means the little door. And so Sean and Natalie, this is a bus that they remodeled. Someone donated this bus, and they remodeled it, and they go to the different red light districts. So out of La Linea, they go to El Tribal and 2 other ones that I can't think of the names of. And so they, the ladies can come in there, because these other red light districts, it costs money to either get a ride into La Puerta, which is the drop-in center, the name of the drop-in center. So they actually go to the ladies. And that was actually our ride to and from the hotel to La Linea. This is La Linea. You can see the railroad tracks there. That's Sean on the left and Lance on the right. And you can see each one of those little doors. That's a room. There's like 150 rooms all along La Linea. So roughly 150 ladies. Next. That's just another picture of it. You can see kind of there on the right where the tin roof is. Like I said, it's not secured down. People can just lift it up. And that's the La Puertita, the little bus. and that's the actual building now. So, massive upgrades. And these are the actual exam rooms. So, table, running water, you can see a sink there on the left. Windows, so if you look out the windows, you're up high enough that you can actually see Lilinia and all the little rooms, and you can see the men walking up and down, the hundreds of motorcycles going by. Most people travel by motorcycle there. And that's our team, and Karina is the one that's standing off on the left. She's the ancillary nurse. And that's Delmy. Delmy bought a coconut, and she gave me a slice of this coconut. And it didn't have, I've never had coconut before, it didn't have any flavor, I wasn't impressed. I told her it tasted like nada, which is nothing. And so then the next day she bought another coconut and put it in the fridge, and she said it tasted different, and it did taste a little different, but she bought a coconut. And that is our team on the roof. And so the fellow clear on the right is Eric, and he was our bus driver. Sean and Natalie actually just hired him to just do bus driving. And so when he knew we were coming, it's either a week or 2 weeks before, he got up at different times to leave his town, which was about an hour away, to see what the best time to leave was so we could avoid the traffic, so we could get there on time. So, I don't know, kind of crazy to get up at, I think 4:30 or 5 was the appropriate time that he was getting up to leave, to come get us, but it's crazy. And, okay. So, when trying to figure out, to sum up how this whole trip, I pondered, how did this whole team actually even get started? And I don't actually even know. I'm beyond thankful that it did, and that I was invited into it. It's cool how God can use regular things that some folks on this team do in their everyday jobs to show some ladies that He loves them. And it's practical. This is what God does a lot of, but often we're blind to it. He uses everyday things to minister to us. He meets us where we are in life. He calls us and then cleans us up, not the other way around. Jesus met Matthew in a tax collector's booth. Matthew was a social outcast. He was a Jew, and he would have been seen as a traitor to his very own Jewish people. Jesus goes to his house for dinner, and there were other fellow tax collectors and sinners eating with him. The Passion Translation says tax collectors and outcasts of society. The Pharisees saw this, and they asked the disciples, "Why is the teacher eating with such lowlifes?" Jesus overheard this. The Pharisees didn't come to him directly. He overheard them. He spoke up, though. He could have minded his own business and just kept quiet, but he didn't. I think he spoke up because Jesus doesn't just mind his own business. Our business is his business. He told them that healthy people don't go to the doctor, the sick people go to the doctor. He told the Pharisees to learn what this means. He wants us to show mercy and not just offer him sacrifices. He came to invite the outcasts of society and sinners, not the ones who think they're already on the right path. Those are his words, not mine. Jesus loves the outcasts. So then, a little sales pitch. Sean and Natalie, they have a Facebook page where you can see what's actively going on in their ministry. It's called Tamar's Hope. If you search for it though, there are 2 separate Tamar's groups. The one that you would be interested in is the one it mentions Guatemala. They're always welcoming new financial partners, and so if your spiritual gift is giving, you should check into it. And their website is tamarshope.com. And thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for caring. And, we will be singing hymn 338, I Know Not Why God's Wondrous. Hey, you can stand up if you want. Have a good Sunday, thanks.